Generational gets thrown out a little bit too much, but Abdul Carter deserves to be described, Ryan, in my opinion, as generational. This guy can be a game breaker. He can be a 15-plus sack guy in the NFL on a potentially consistent basis. I'm all in on Abdul Carter. He should be the first overall pick. You're smiling at me like I'm talking crazy. Am I crazy, Ryan, for thinking this?
You're not crazy. I'm just thinking back to your conversation on Twitter about the word generational, and it kind of made me laugh a little bit.
So wait, I know that
yes.
we don't do these on these things because this isn't a podcast.
Yes.
If you think that 10 to 15 sacks a year isn't generational, I need you to go look up what some of the best sack getters in the history of the sport have done. And Abdul Carter could be that.
Yep. No, I think Abdul Carter has pretty much unlimited upside, Joe, because I think the thing that we don't talk about enough is, yes, 6'3", 250 plus, incredible athletes, bend, closing speed, and he had great production this year for Penn State, but he's only been playing it for 1 year, man. Like, that's the craziest part, is we're not talking about a guy that's been playing defensive end his whole life. He was literally a off-ball linebacker his first 2 years at Penn State and used kind of as a situational blitzer for Penn State the first 2 years. And now he is, if not the best overall player in the 2025 NFL draft class, then he's number 2, right? Like, he's a top 2 player in this class overall. This kid's upside is almost unbelievable at this point in his process.
Yeah, the upside that he plays with is why we need to put him into this category, that he can be one of the most reliable defensive ends in the NFL. You painted the picture perfectly. The fact that we threw this guy into a situation that he has never done before, and he immediately is finding success. He was one of the most successful tackle for loss getters and sack getters this year in the position that he was playing. That is the type of clear evidence that you look for in a prospect to paint the picture, Ryan, of saying he will go on to be great. If somebody is adept enough to quickly pick something up, that actually very clearly implies that they are in a special category. It's just like if you talk to somebody and they're able to teach themselves something very quickly, that means they're a brilliant individual. It's brilliant watching Abdul Carter play the way that he does.
Well, I think the coolest part about him is that we saw ascension throughout the year as well, right? Like, I thought the first start that he had against Wyatt Millum for West Virginia was a little bit uneven because Wyatt Millum was very experienced and Abdul Carter was not very experienced. But if you watch his games against Ohio State, Notre Dame playing with one arm in the playoffs, like, this kid is about as surefire of a thing in the 2025 class as you will find, man. He is a guy that is going to be a perennial double-digit sack artist. And the scary part is, I don't think either one of us know exactly how good he's going to be yet, right? Like, we've just started to tap the ceiling of how good Abdul Carter could be on the next level.
If we were to give out a comp, you and I are both on the same page here. We think that this is Micah Parsons. It's such an easy, lazy comp, but a guy who is an off-ball linebacker who turns into a full-time edge rusher. The length and the build is very similar, very explosive in short areas, quick acceleration. What makes this Micah Parsons comparison make so much sense?
I think it's Micah Parsons just a little bit of an earlier transition in his career. Like, this is what Micah Parsons would have looked like if Penn State, his final year, I know he missed his last year, obviously, because of the COVID year, but if you would have thrown him at edge his last year at Penn State, you would have gotten exactly probably what Abdul Carter did this past year for Penn State. They're almost the same body type, where they're 6'2", probably in some change. We'll see what the verifieds are. He's going to be about 250 pounds, but he doesn't have great length. Like, I don't think Abdul Carter is the longest athlete of all time from an arm length perspective, but he makes up for it with having incredible short area explosiveness, having great closing speed, and having a tremendous bend. So similar athletes, similar ascensions and stories, evolutions as football players. And I also think that the upside is almost untapped, similarly what we've seen what Micah Parsons has been able to do with the Cowboys his first few years.
And I think in that vein too, Micah Parsons, like, we didn't really know for certain how he was going to pan out because there wasn't really a large sample size of him rushing off the edge and just being a full-time pass rusher. So much so that early on with the Cowboys, he wasn't immediately thrown into the mix as just, you're going to be rushing off the edge every single snap.
Right.
And then eventually, he was a linebacker. And then eventually we see the role that he's played with Dallas has just been so impactful. Folks, let us know in the comments, what do you think of Abdul Carter? Do you think that we're overhyping him? Do you think we're underhyping him if that's somehow possible? Let us know. Hit the like button and subscribe, and we will talk to you later.